This is your walkthrough of the lesson on Pacific rainforests. So your goal today is that you can describe how the amount of rainfall affects the types of living things found in the Pacific Northwest forests, and that you can identify some of the living things in the Pacific Northwest forests. This video gives you a background of the Northwest forest and talks to you about some of the living things that you might find there, specifically the trees. This is your lesson right here. We'll go through everything that you need to know when talking about the Pacific Northwest forest. And as a reminder, one of the skills you're going to be taught in that video is that when you're responding to the explain wrap-it-ups, you need to cite clues from the photographs and captions as well as from the rest of the reading. This will lead you to providing evidence and inferences that the trees are likely to be tall. You need to continue with your examination of the iris. You're going to continue that same process. You should use what you have learned about the environment of the Pacific Northwest forest, as well as the statement in the captions that these flowers grow in damp soil, so that you can infer that these plants need a lot of water to survive. And we'll talk about that in our video lesson. You have two activity pages this week. The first activity page is this one, which in order to see everything, you will need to be in edit mode, not in present mode like I am here. You're going to drag the images of the living things from the Pacific Northwest to their correct category. Is it a plant? Is it an animal? And then the labels, you're going to try to label those plants and animals. And these are all plants and animals that we talk about in our video lesson this week. Slide 5 is where you're going to type in your answers to the wrap it up. So what kind of trees are most common in the Pacific Northwest? And how does the rainfall of the Pacific Northwest affect the variety of plants and animals that live there? And then lastly, your others. There's a lot of videos to different landscapes, different environments, different parts of the Pacific Northwest forest. This YMCA one, it will talk to you all about the trees and identify a bunch of trees for you. This one is great if you want to learn about the climate of the Pacific Northwest. And if you're just looking for a fun, enjoyable, peaceful video to watch, I highly recommend this one. And then this is a link that will take you to the State of Washington Department for Natural Resources site that will tell you if you want to learn more about the animals that you might find living in the Pacific Northwest. This is a link that will give you a bunch of information and a lot of resources if you needed them. Let's jump back to slide 4, and I'm going to exit my present view and go into my edit mode. And then here I can see all of the images that I have on the right side. So I need to decide, is this a plant or an animal? Plant or an animal? Plant or animal? And then can I label it correctly? Some of these may look challenging to you right now because you haven't watched the video lesson. But after you watch the video lesson, it should be extremely helpful, and you should be able to match the living thing with whether it's a plant or an animal, and then match the label to label that thing. Because your goal when you're done here today is you can describe how the amount of rainfall affects the types of living things found in the Pacific Northwest, and you can identify some of the living things in the Pacific Northwest forests.